The moment you truly loved someone, you stopped being their equal. Not because you were less, but because you suddenly cared more about their existence than your own. That asymmetry wasn't a flaw in the feeling. A philosopher who survived the Holocaust argued it was the very structure of love itself, and once you hear it, you can't unfeel it. His name was Emmanuel Levinas. He spent most of his adult life thinking about one question: what does it mean to be responsible for another person? Not responsible in the legal sense, not even in the moral sense, but in the pre-verbal, bodily, unavoidable sense. The kind that hits you before you have words for it. He wrote that the face of the other person, just the naked fact of their looking at you, makes a demand you did not choose and cannot refuse. Think about the first time someone you loved looked genuinely afraid. Not of you, just afraid, in your presence. Something happened before you decided anything. Your body moved toward them. Your own concerns, whatever you were worried about 10 seconds earlier, became instantly small. That involuntary collapse of your own priorities in the face of theirs. Levinas would say that wasn't sentiment. That was the ethical structure of love revealing itself. The radical part of his argument, the part that still unsettles people, is that this responsibility is not mutual by design. You don't love someone because they love you back equally. In fact, the moment you start calculating whether the care is balanced, whether the giving is fair, whether you are getting as much as you give, something has already gone wrong. The ledger is not love. The ledger is a transaction with someone you don't fully see yet. You have probably felt this without having a name for it. You are in a relationship that looks from the outside completely equal. You both try. You both show up. But privately, you know that you are more afraid of losing them than they are of losing you. And instead of that frightening you, or instead of only frightening you, it feels like the truest thing in the room. That quiet asymmetry, the one you maybe never admitted out loud, is closer to love than any arrangement you have ever made that felt perfectly fair. Levinas called this being held hostage, not as a cruelty, as a tenderness. You are held hostage by the other person's vulnerability. Their suffering has a claim on you that your own suffering does not, he wrote. And this is one of the stranger and more honest things ever written about love, that I am responsible for the other person, even for their responsibility toward me. The loop never closes evenly. It was never meant to. Now here is where it gets complicated in the way that real things always do. If love is inherently unequal, does that mean someone is always being sacrificed? Levinas did not think so, and neither, I think, should you. Because the inequality runs both ways, just not simultaneously, not symmetrically, not in the ways you can measure. There are moments when you are the one undone by their existence, and moments when you are the face that undoes them. The asymmetry rotates, but it never cancels out into perfect balance, and trying to make it do so is what slowly empties a relationship of its particular weight. Compare this to how we are often told love should feel. Equal, reciprocal, a partnership of matched effort and matched feeling. There is something obviously good in that framing. It guards against exploitation, it insists on dignity, but it also, quietly, turns love into a kind of contract, and contracts are broken when the terms aren't met. What Levinas is pointing toward is something prior to the contract, a relation that precedes the negotiation and survives its failure. Something that cannot be voided just because the terms became unfair, because the terms were never the point. This is why the loves that have marked you most deeply were probably not the ones that felt most balanced. They were the ones where you were somehow more afraid, more awake, more willing to be inconvenienced in ways you would not tolerate from anyone else. More yourself, paradoxically, for having stepped so completely outside yourself. The person who made you forget yourself for a moment. Not lose yourself, but genuinely forget your own edges. They are the ones you still think about on ordinary Tuesdays for reasons you cannot entirely explain. There is a version of this in the philosopher's own biography. Levinas was captured by the Nazis in 1940 and spent 5 years as a prisoner of war. His wife and daughter survived by hiding. He lost most of his Lithuanian Jewish family in the Holocaust. When he came back to his philosophy after the war, it had changed, had become almost entirely about the face, the other person, the infinite weight of one human being's existence on another. This wasn't abstraction for him. It was made out of actual grief, actual people, actual names he carried. And that matters for how we receive his thinking about love, because he is not talking about a philosophy of romantic feeling. He is talking about what it means that another person exists at all, and what that existence asks of you. Love for Levinas is not the feeling that arises when someone meets your needs. It is the recognition that their existence, fragile, mortal, irreplaceable, is a weight you now carry. It arrives before you choose it, and it does not release you when it becomes inconvenient. You might push back here. You might say, but I want to be loved equally. I want to feel that someone would mourn losing me the way I would mourn losing them. And that is not a small thing to want. It is, in fact, a very human thing. But notice what you are really asking for. You are asking to be seen as irreplaceable, to be held as someone whose absence would be unbearable. That is not a request for equality. That is a request to be someone's asymmetry, to be the face that makes a demand they cannot refuse, the loneliness that haunts certain relationships, the specific kind where everything is technically fine, where no one is unkind, where the arrangement is perfectly reasonable. May be the loneliness of being seen as an equal rather than as a particular, irreplaceable presence. Equality can be a form of distance. When someone treats you with fair and measured care, the same care they would offer anyone, there is a chill in it that has nothing to do with cruelty. It is the chill of not being necessary, of being replaceable, of being treated justly instead of being loved. What Levinas gives you, what you can actually carry out of his difficult, dense writing and into your life, is permission to stop pathologizing your own unevenness. The love that scares you because you feel more than they do. The care that keeps showing up even when it isn't returned in kind. The loyalty that survives the math not working out. He is not saying you should accept being mistreated. He is saying the very fact that you are capable of caring beyond the point of fairness is not a wound in you. It is the shape love takes when it is serious. There is a line in Levinas, and I want to be careful here because his language resists being simplified, where he says that love discovers in the other a freedom, not a freedom you grant them, not a freedom they have earned, but a freedom that precedes you, that was there before you arrived, that you are asked to honor. To love someone is to let their existence have its own weight, separate from what it gives you, to stop needing them to be your equal in order to deserve your care, to be undone by them, and to find that being undone was the point all along. So the next time love frightens you with its imbalance, the next time you catch yourself more awake than they are, more careful, more wrecked, try sitting with it for a moment before you fix it or flee it. That asymmetry might not be evidence that something has gone wrong. It might be evidence that you are, right now, actually in it, that you have seen a face and the face has made its demand, and you, without choosing, before deciding, said yes.